England's top clubs invest heavily in youth academies, but for many young people, the reality is grim. Thousands of boys, and now increasingly girls, join academies dreaming of stardom. Yet, fewer than 1% of those recruited at the age of 9 ever make a career out of the game. The rest face disillusionment, extreme pressure, and, in the worst cases, abuse. Investigations and studies over the past 2 decades have revealed a culture of systematic failures, from unchecked sexual predators to a complete lack of pastoral care that has left many former academy players with lifelong scars. These issues cut across every level of the game, affecting both Premier League hopefuls and rising lionesses. In 2016, former players began publicly exposing decades-old abuse. Former Crewe Alexandra trainee Andy Woodward waived anonymity to recount how youth coach Barry Bennell sexually abused him as a boy. Woodward's disclosure triggered dozens more victims to come forward. Among them were Paul Stewart, an ex-Manchester City and Liverpool striker, and David White, an ex-Man City forward. They revealed they too were abused by Bennell in the 80s.
I can't speak for others, and I can't. It's very difficult for me to come out and say there is definitely others, etc. I know there is others out there. I hope with this I can give them strength.
Their testimonies painted a chilling picture of a paedophile network around youth academies. As one victim warned during an interview, "I believe there was a conspiracy and a paedophile ring," suggesting that multiple clubs may have shielded predators. Further investigation uncovered other abuses. For example, the Sheldon report noted Newcastle United's delay in acting on reports about youth coach George Ormond, who was convicted in 2018. Rumours about Peterborough and Southampton coach Bob Higgins were ignored for years, and it was also revealed that Frank Roper, a Blackpool youth coach, had past convictions and yet continued abusing young boys, including future England national player Paul Stewart. In total, police recorded 849 victims and 300 suspects by 2018, spanning 340 clubs. By 2021, only 14 of those predators, including Bennell, Ormond and Higgins, had been convicted and jailed. In the wake of the abuse scandal, victims have continued to speak out about the lifelong impact. Another former Crewe Alexandra player, Steve Walters, the club's youngest ever debutant, came forward in 2016, speaking of the abuse he suffered again at the hands of Bennell.
Just want justice, like closure on here now. You know, if all this has got to be rectified as soon as possible.
For many victims like Walters, the fight for justice is only part of the story. Even those untouched by these abusers often face their own battles. A different kind of trauma born from the relentless pressure, rejection and emotional toll that comes with chasing the dream inside England's academy system. For the thousands who don't make it, the emotional fallout can be devastating. After years of grueling training, many academy players are released as teenagers. Research shows that such sudden rejection can destroy a young person's sense of identity and damage their mental health. One study captured that sense perfectly. Players described it as going from everything to nothing in a split second. Their whole identity wrapped up in being a footballer. Injuries only add to the pain. People like John from the study spent years getting back physically and battling with depression, counselling and paralysing anxiety. Within 6 to 12 months of release, many were in deep distress, struggling with depression, an identity crisis, shattered self-worth, and for some, suicidal thoughts. These findings mirror real-life cases. Inquest reports have explicitly linked multiple suicides to academy cut-offs. For instance, a 2017 inquest determined that a 16-year-old's release from a Premier League side's academy was the single most important factor leading to his suicide. The coroner described it as that pivotal point that crushed a young boy, a young man's life, and all the dreams that go with it. Similarly, in October 2020, a talented Manchester City youth player, Jeremy Whiston, 18 at the time, committed suicide shortly after being released by the club. His father noted that an injury-plagued final year left Whiston very frustrated and struggling to find a new club. City and other clubs do have exit programs with sports psychologists and career counsellors, but even former coaches admit that they mostly react after a tragedy. As Man United's academy head coach Nick Cox told ESPN in 2021, "I'm not sure the solution is to stick a plaster on it once it's all gone wrong. We have to have good exit strategies or it's not going to be a healthy environment." Academy life also exerts relentless pressure on young players. Former Watford trainee Eddie Ashodi recalls his under-18s feeling utterly alone. As a youngster, you're fed a dream, you know very little else, that is all you aspire to. Football, football, football. When players are cut, they find no social life outside football and struggle to know who they are without the sport. Many describe post-relief life as traumatic and not easy. A former Man United youth player, Dimitri Mitchell, said his lowest point was a constant dread of never playing again, leaving him overthinking and anxious about his future. A 2015 study of released academy players found that over half were at clinical level of psychological distress within weeks of being let go. By the age of 21, roughly 83% of boys who began elite youth training have already dropped out. Only 1 in 6 will still be professional athletes by then. A 2022 qualitative study similarly reported former scholars enduring prolonged depression, confusion and loss of self-esteem months after release. In short, modern academies prioritise physical conditioning for young men and often overlook emotional support. Now, although most reporting has been on male academies, women's football also faces severe cases of abuse and neglect. Female players have spoken of bullying, harassment and mental torment within the youth systems, and face massive online abuse in the sport at large. Recent global scandals, notably the 2022 Yates report, exposed widespread emotional and sexual abuse in a professional women's league in the US. England's Lionesses even protested at Wembley in solidarity, warning that this isn't just the NWSL, this is women's football in general. The message is clear: young female athletes too can fall prey to coaches and officials who wield power over their careers. In Inverness, a young girl believed her coach was someone she could trust, a figure of guidance in her teenage years. However, between January 2021 and October 2022, that trust was severely eroded. Lee Murray, a 53-year-old youth coach and a former head of a girls' football club, repeatedly abused her in the back of his car. He sent her depraved messages, indecent images of himself, and exploited his position of trust. When confronted by online vigilante groups, he called himself a disgusting idiot, but the damage had already been done. His behaviour left deep and lifelong emotional scars. Murray was only sentenced to 5 years in prison. Beyond in-person abuse, female players also endure severe online harassment. England defender Jess Carter revealed that after the 2025 Euros, she received racist and sexist messages that drove her off social media entirely. She emphasised the importance of speaking out, saying players cannot stay silent or hate will win. Safeguarding experts now call for women's academies to have the same stringent child protection and welfare measures as the men's game, along with education on handling online abuse. These revelations of sexual predators, institutional failures and shattered lives have forced English football to reckon with a harsh truth. Its academy system can hide a very dark side. While the FA and clubs have started to implement the Sheldon Report recommendations and apologise for the past inaction, victims and psychologists warn that there's still a lot to be done. They urge for transparent reporting, mandatory counselling for every released player, and an end to toxic pressure that shames kids into silence. As Andy Woodward and others have said in interviews, the only way to heal is for football to admit its faults and enforce real safeguards. The future of young players may depend on it.